I think we just saw a paradigm shift with Sony's State of Play, where the developers that were causing the most ruckus and entertainment for the fan base have been Chinese developers. And I think this is a shocking thing for a lot of people that don't know that there are a lot of games coming out of China, but China has quietly took an underdog position within the video game industry and is coming up with titles that are grasping the attention of a lot of people in the Western games development sphere, especially in a time where a lot of the games that are coming out of the West are massive disappointments. And I think China itself came out with two titles that dominated the conversation, people universally praising them for your uniqueness and interesting gameplay and dynamics and character designs. There's a lot of unique things coming out of Chinese developers, and the two biggest titles of Sony's State of Play were Chinese titles. One is Ballad of Anatara, and of course Infinity Nikki. And this is a title that people were buzzing on online. People were talking about it, just a refreshing new look of a game that we just don't get nowadays in the Western development sphere, because we just hate cute and beautiful things. So it's impossible for people within the Western games development space to actually make a game like this. It's even hard for Japanese people to make games like this, because they know the West is aggressively against anything that is cute and adorable. And I think that is a situation that you're seeing across the games development sphere that is influenced by Western morals and standards. And we're now seeing games come out from places that are not influenced by the Western development thought process, like China, like Korea, and we're getting new refreshing games that are interesting and engaging and dynamic. I think Infinity Nikki, although I'm not that interested in it, I could see how people are very interested in playing something fresh and new that is not coming out of the social political thought processes of Southern California developers. And I think that's the thing that we're getting from Chinese games. They're doing things that we just don't see anymore in video game making, and I think that is the thing. We're getting unique ideas, properties, interesting looking characters, designs, and worlds that are untethered to our modern lifestyle. And I think that's the thing people are looking for, true fantasy, because a lot of the things that are coming out today, they're speaking Twitter, social progressive language. The dialogue is like a Marvel movie, so it just feels like something straight out of our modern timescape. And I think people are tired of that. We hear that with all Gearbox titles, every Western game development title that is coming out, they have the same script and character designs. And I think this is a different type of game that we're getting now, and I think unique ideas are going to win the race for supremacy within the games development sphere. And to just have a character carrying a kid, this is impossible in Western game development scripts, because kids are non-existent and they're never supposed to be next to male heroes for some reason in these games, unless you're Joel. And I think this is a thing that you're not going to see in a Western game now, where you have this close connection between a child and a hero protecting that child like that in that way, unless he'll end up like Joel, getting his brains bashed in. And that is just the overall take that we're seeing in the Western games development space, where they refuse to make games like this. And now we have countries like China that are developing games like this that are few and far between in our society today. And I think getting a game like this that is highly interesting, that has these relationships and dynamics that are just few and far between exposed in American video games nowadays, is interesting. And that's what we're getting from Infinity Nikki. And I think this is a game that I wouldn't play, but I could see many people playing. I think the demographic for this game is probably overwhelmingly male for the most part, because I know in China they make these games because they know it's a large male audience that is lonely and wants to interact with a female character like this. So I think that is the majority fan base. But of course, if you go on Twitter, I see a lot of people with certain flags excited for this game, expecting to have some gender preference nonsense in there. I'm like, this is China. They don't do that sort of thing. But I think this is a game that's going to strike a chord with many fan bases. And I think just its overall innocence is something that is completely absent in the modern day video game atmosphere and environment. Is just, this is that game that's going to bring it. And I think that's the thing interesting about the games that are coming out of China. They're bringing new things, or old things that used to be in the American games development sphere that are not there anymore because of politics, social agendizing, and just activism, where we're just trying to force feed political ideas rather than make things that are for a fan base. And this is just 2 games out of the state of play. I'm not even talking about games that are set to release this year that are coming from China that are wholly more interesting than a lot of games that have come out for the past 5 to 10 years in the Western game development space. And I think that's the thing we're getting with Black Myth Wukong here, where we're just getting something that's just so completely out of our imagination from China. And this is, of course, based on the Monkey King and everything, all their myths and legends of that country. And I think that is bringing some new ideas and refreshing takes of the fantasy genre that is driving interest into these games. And I have to say, China is producing a lot of big, powerful games that may disrupt the industry. I think they're making games for people that actually like playing games. And I think that's a scary prospect if you're a Western games developer and all you focus on is body shape and uglifying characters. Like, when you have developers out in East Asia that are making games that are expertly made to appeal to a fan base, and that is something that can beat anything else that we're doing in the Western games development space. And I think that's the thing I'm hoping for, to get a lot from these 3 games that I just mentioned. I think we will get that, and it is interesting to see these Eastern developers carrying their weight now, secretly biding their time and coming out with games that are just so epically made and coordinated that a lot of people are looking forward to it. And I'm one of those people really looking forward to it. Look, this looks strange and just interesting and abstract. This is the type of game people want to play, and I think we're not getting those games anymore from Western developers because they're too focused on Southern California politics to actually focus and think about a unique idea. Of course, this goes off into other entertainment industries like Hollywood, where they're having that same issue, but it's happening very heavily in the video game environment. And I think it's just interesting that we're getting these new type of games from China, because China is just leading in that factor of just, okay, we're coming for the competition here, we're gonna make good games because we want to get into this market. And I think they're spending the money, the time, the interest, and the effort, and they're making things that are on par with a lot of the Korean developers that are making great games. Shift Up with Stellar Blade and Life of Pi. So it is an interesting time in the gaming industry where I think the tides are churning and shifting. People are focusing their energy on these new games that are coming out that are doing new and old things that are just not happening in the industry, at least in the Western games development industry. And I think they're doing it so well that the interest is catering towards them, even to the people that actually want to buy the Western style type games. They're liking Infinity Nikki. They're talking about the people with the Palestine and gender flags. They're talking about this game because this game is more in line with the things they want to do in gaming. So it just shows a complete failure of the Western game development space, where they can't even cater to the people they want to cater to the most, where they're destroying all of their fan base to cater to these people, and they're looking at Chinese games now as a source of inspiration. It just shows the failure of the people that are working in the entertainment industry and just in the game industry as a whole. But China is dominating the Sony state of play. I think it's a good sign of competition that is coming away that may force Western games developers to actually make good games, or they just may keep doing what they're doing and failing while Chinese developers and Korean developers take their place as a dominant industry for gaming. But that's just my thoughts on this. You tell me what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.